Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mr. Superintendent. Yes, Chief.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Superintendent, board members. The first slide here, we talk about security monitors. School police is developing a standardized 40-hour online training curriculum for security monitors at school sites and all new hires. At the end of the course, all current employees will take an exam to show competency. New hires will also be required to show competency prior to being eligible for hire. Thereafter, an 8-hour course will be required to maintain standards annually. The training will be in place by January 2014 and will address the following areas: professionalism, attire, basic crisis intervention training, patrol practices, radio procedures, the role of the school security monitor, legal powers and limitations of school security, emergency response, effective communications and public relations, access control, and probably one of the most important things, ethics and conduct of a security monitor. A security monitor allocation formula has been established to develop and distribute positions effectively and equitably across schools throughout the district. A series of variables was used to set the standards, such as student population, size of the school, serious targeted incidents, and a student climb survey, just to name a few. School staffing. The district has identified funding, as the superintendent alluded to hire 18 additional officers. The department has also applied for 8 officers to the Community-Oriented Policing in Schools COPS grant. Hopefully, we'll be awarded these additional bodies in late September. School police conducted a personnel staffing analysis, which identified another 18 officer positions for redeployment to school sites. This includes the hiring of open positions, redeployment of officers who are assigned to patrol or administrative functions to school sites. This will account for an additional 36 police officer positions deployed to school sites for the upcoming school year. All traditional high schools and middle schools will have an officer assigned. A strategic plan to fill our K centers is in progress. School policing programs. School police continues to implement mentoring programs that will positively impact our students, such as Big Brothers Big Sisters and 5,000 role models. School police continues to participate in these valuable programs and is reaching out to all law enforcement agencies to gain their support in mentoring district students. In addition to school police, members of Miami-Dade, the City of Miami, Miami Gardens, and North Miami Police Departments are currently participating in these programs, mentoring children in our schools. A new program, My Life, My Power, will be rolled out. This program assists middle school students in reaching their full potential in life through character building, mentoring, leadership, and goal setting. Officers will meet regularly with students and conduct interactive discussions on subjects such as gang violence, bullying, the power of proper fitness, and building positive relationships. This concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Feldman, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Congratulations, Chief. Outstanding job. 3 quick questions. I heard you say that right now we have enough officers to place in every high school and traditional middle school, and that you're looking at K-8s. Would you be kind enough, when you get the allocations and you make that move to have officers at the K-8s, would you let us know the status update?
Through the chair, absolutely, Dr. Feldman.
Okay, thank you for that. Number 2, any of the recruits of the 18 you picked up, any of them come from any military police that were retiring?
We're currently looking at, through the chair, obviously, currently looking at that. We have a number of people who have applied, and we're getting ready to go through that process and giving veterans that first preference.
Great. And we do give veteran preference, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm a
Fantastic. You're pulling anybody great from Miami? No. Last one is the training that our folks, our officers are going through. Does that include dealing with students of need, students with special needs? Sorry.
Through the chair, absolutely. One of the things that I identified when I got here is that we had a number of officers that did not attend the school resource officer program, a curriculum that is needed for SROs. It's a 40-hour program. And currently, as we speak, those officers, approximately 25 of them, are taking the SRO school at the City of Miami. Our instructors are actually teaching it. And in the spring break, we'll have an additional 25 officers going through that program. And that covers those topics in there.
Outstanding. I would just say that you can count on my support with the officers. Our police department does an amazing job, in my opinion, and from what I've seen in riding with you all, for our children, our students, and our parents. And I'm very proud of what they do. I'm proud of how they serve. I'm proud of their ability to close the gap between the old officers, not the school board, but the old officers' philosophy and what our officers believe in and how they work. And I thank you very much for making sure that that continues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Feldman. Ms. Castillo, and then
Thank you,
Dr.
Madam Chair.
Perez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ashley, and thank you, Chief. You're doing a wonderful job. You know, you just started recently, and you're doing a wonderful job so far. It's great to hear that you're progressing so aggressively, and to protect our students and our teachers in our schools. And one of the questions actually was a follow-up to Dr. Feldman's question on the K-8s. You said there's no coverage now for K-8s, but you're looking for the future. Do you
Through the
know?
chair.
Are we talking about this school year, or how are you going to address that area?
Through the chair, we currently have 2 K-8 centers that are actually being covered, and as we bring in the officers and deploy them, we will fill the middle schools, and then we will fill the K-8 centers, and strategically over time, try to get the rest of them filled.
Okay, so if I understand it, so if we have one officer at each high school and middle school, what happens to the elementary schools if they're in need? Do they cover those elementary schools?
Through the chair, as a school resource officer, when I was here many years ago, we had feeder patterns. So we'll make sure that the officers in the middle schools and the high schools, along with K-8 centers, will help support the elementary schools. And I'm also looking at bringing in part-time officers to help augment those elementary schools to have the staffing and services there. So that's another plan that we have.
That's great to hear, thank you. You mentioned security guards, but I might have missed it. What happened with the security monitors? Are they reducing now because of the number, we have more officers in the schools, or is that number staying the same for the allocations on the security monitors?
Through the chair, we've worked very closely with school operations, through other entities, human capital. We've looked at finance. We've looked at the open positions that we've had. We had some direction where we looked at open positions, ones that weren't filled, and based on the ones that weren't filled, we're able to reallocate that funding for the officers and actually keep the full-time positions in place and look at our part-time allocation also and make sure the part-time allocations were filled also.
So we shouldn't see that many changes in our schools on security monitors for this year?
Security, through the chair, the security monitors should pretty much stay the same, and as we use those open funded positions to backfill them with police officers, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. One more question, if I may, Madam Chair. Thank you. I'd like to see an update at some point. I know we had a meeting last year towards, I think, before the summer, with the county as far as security issues. I don't know if, this might not be the appropriate time, but maybe if we could see an update at some point of where we're at with that and the programs that we're doing with the county and the municipalities on security.
Absolutely. Through the chair, we're working with the superintendent's roundtable. In fact, I have a meeting tomorrow that I'm chairing, the Juvenile Safety Committee, and that's where we actually do our updates. I can provide you a copy of that.
Great. Thank you very much.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. I want to go Dr. Perez, but Chief, it's very, what Ms. Castillo mentioned, is something that I would also like to have an update on, as well as what I have heard on several occasions from several parents, the concern about security monitors in the elementary schools. And I believe you said that it's going to remain the same, not exactly, that more or less, I think. I don't know if it's more or less.
Through the chair. But when we looked at the formula, we made sure that we had a proper allocation. The formula took into consideration different variables, and basically we know that we'll have at least a minimum of 1. We have part-time monitors there, so there wasn't really a movement, a loss particularly to that aspect. But we know for a fact that there will have security monitors there to assist with those elementary schools in those particular areas.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Perez.
Yes. Chief, how are we doing as far as arms in school? I know a few years back we had a significant problem, or at least it was portrayed to us that we had, students bringing in arms to school. How is that?
Through the chair, I looked at the statistics, and I know that through our random metal detector program that we've used throughout the years, where our officers actually go in now and do the random detection, I think that we've come up better. Believe it or not, the statistics I've seen, we actually have less firearms through those random detections and more other weapons like knives or stuff like that come up. So I'm pretty confident that the visibility of the officers on site, and more importantly, that relationship building between the officer and the students and the faculty helps assist in making sure that we don't have those types of things that come onto the campus.
What happens to a student who is found, for example, with a worse, which would be a firearm? What happens to that student?
Through the chair, obviously a possession of firearms on a campus is a felony, so we would actually take that child or that person into custody, remand them to the JAC, and then we also have the disciplinary side of the house from the school standpoint.
That is no longer a school district issue. It goes to the Department of Juvenile Corrections, is that right?
Through the chair, you actually have the delinquency side, which we take care of through the JAC, and then we have the student code of conduct will deal with the actual follow-up on the student code of conduct regarding the discipline side. So two sides of the house work at the same time.
And this My Life, My Power is basically a program that you've put together to get your officers to help with, to help students and to speak to students and those kinds of things, correct?
Yeah, through the chair, My Life, My Power is a program that's being used throughout the United States. It centers on bullying, and what we feel is across this industry, we don't provide the officers enough resources to deal with bullying and how to identify it and how to work through it. So it's a really well put together law-related education program that a lot of agencies throughout the United States are using. It's particularly that it's step-by-step, it's interactive, it allows our officers to actually engage with the youth and build up on that and build their confidence.
And what has been, or statistically, or what is the most effective thing when when you see a student going the wrong direction, going south? What is the most effective thing that we can do for those students?
Through the chair, I've had several conversations over the last couple of weeks with people, and the most effective thing is prevention. Let's catch them before they actually commit something and we have to send them to the JAC. And in fact, the Juvenile Assessment Center, our local juvenile services, has a prevention program where we can actually call them out and they'll do intake and go through the resourcing for that child, for their family, to make sure they get the proper resources if they're calling for help. On top of that, mentoring. Being able to sit down and mentor with them, engage with them, and talk with them so that we can prevent these things from occurring. So that is the best place right now to look at these things.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. Ms. Castillo?
I'm sorry, just two other things. In the program that was presented earlier, that Ms. Brown presented earlier, all the programs that we're doing, I know I saw on there that DARE and GREAT are also included in those additional programs, so those are great programs that we're doing and know in our schools. And I guess that's part of the prevention that you were talking about, referring to.
Through the chair, that's exactly right. The one good thing about the GREAT program that's been very successful over the years is that it actually deals with cognitive learning and be able to think before you act. So those are the types of programs that we're trying to push through when it deals with law-related education programs, and that's why they've been very successful over the years.
And one question on the security monitors. Are we doing additional training now for security monitors as far as more on the entry into the building, what to look for, how to keep our schools more secure? Are we doing more training now than we have been in the past, or can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, through the chair, there was a report last year about how many people we trained, and we put some training on for them. At the end of the school year, we actually put additional training on. Additional 200 people got trained. As the school resource officers go back to their schools, they start meeting with their site staff. They'll actually sit with them and go through at least the perimeter points, what's important as far as being on site, being on time, and being timely, and being a visibility from that standpoint. So the SRO on that campus will work with the site administrator to make that happen. And then, as you alluded to earlier, having that online training into the digital help will actually help push out information. And we may see hot topics, and we want to push out a hot topic item to them so that they can dig in and understand more about that. Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Ms. Regalado?
Thank you. Chief, I wanted to ask you, you talked about the training of the security monitors, which I think is great. I've always been a little perplexed by the separation that we have between the police and the security monitors, and I could go on and on and on about the crossing guards. Don't even get me started on how much that upsets me. I bring it up every time. And my issue is that parents and students believe that all these people are interconnected and under our police department. So, one thing that I think that we should consider, and I appreciate the training, but also maybe, and I hate to say this, but maybe, I don't know, is there a nice way to say this, but, maybe some physical health requirements for the security monitors too. I think that that's kind of important. You just worry when you go to school sometime because, you see people that really couldn't make it halfway down. I know if I started running, they couldn't they couldn't catch me. So, I get concerned and I wear very high heels. So that I know that the digital training, and listen, I'm the first one on the tech side, but maybe something a little bit more one-on-one is also could be recommended. And I would hope that we would also try to reach out to the crossing guards. I know that they're not under our jurisdiction. I tried to bring them under our jurisdiction. You guys said no. But at least to try and train them and educate them, because they are, for all intents and purposes, our eyes and ears out there, and they do see and hear a lot. Even though they're dealing with traffic, and maybe try to have better communication with the cities and the counties about where they're needed. Because, it breaks your heart when you go to a school, and earlier today, the chair had the Walk Safe initiative, that's so fantastic, but it breaks your heart when you go to a school and you see children walking in mass and there's no crossing guard. And then you go to a school where no one is walking, where everyone is just dropping off at the circle, and you see a crossing guard directing traffic, which is kind of unnecessary. And it's very frustrating for parents. So it would be nice now that we're having more communication with the county about safety and their police force, to also talk to them about the crossing guards and talk to the different municipalities about the placement of the crossing guards. Because the minute the school starts, we start getting the calls, people start emailing us, complaining about the crossing guards, asking for more crossing guards, and we have to tell them we have nothing to do with it. These people are just on our grounds, and we really don't have any control over them. So it would be something to consider, and then maybe on the health side with the security monitors, I think might be a good idea, long-term planning. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regalado. Dr. Carp, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation and for the good news about how we're going to get more services in our schools. It's going to make a tremendous difference, and we're excited by what you've presented and by the leadership you're showing and moving our district forward. The one question I have at this time is focusing on the issue of predators, and we've talked about some other things, but we do have that as a significant problem. And are people going to be trained to recognize inappropriate conduct if it's individuals that are employed or not employed, and in situations where people aren't supposed to be alone with students? Are we going to look at things like that so our folks know what to look for and how to address it?
Through the chair, absolutely. I think that's one of the hot topics now with everything that's going on. That's something we can actually use in the online training format to give them that information to know what to look for. And obviously, the agency's partnering with Florida Department of Law Enforcement with all the issues going on to make sure we're in loop with everything.
So that will be as a part of the online component, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Carp. Dr. Feldman, sir?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And it's the last question just came to mind with something you just said to my colleague. Our school district is a leader nationally when it comes in terms of the human trafficking issue of awareness, training, and prevention. And I know that through, Ms. Montilla's office, as well as everybody she reports to above her, we have a great program. Is there a way that you can, or if you haven't already, work with them in terms of the human trafficking issue? Because we're not talking about kids who get put on a boxcar. We're talking about our children, be it from any zip code, that are utilized during the day, during school time, as well as after, and report back to school thereafter. So that you could help us on that?
Yeah, through the chair, actually, we are currently partnering with that office. We're actually working with the State Attorney's Office on human trafficking, along with the federals, and we actually have a representative on the International Chiefs of Police task force on this, and they're actually wanting to use our district as a model for other districts on how they should be attacking this problem.
That's great, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Feldman. Any other board member? Dr. Bendros Mendengal, that's right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I too offer my congratulations to you, Chief, and to thank you for following a board member throughout Liberty City and other places and saying to that board member, "We got you." So I want to thank you for that board member. I think we're missing an opportunity to have parent power. As a former principal, when my parents came to bring their children to school, they didn't leave. They became volunteers and security monitors. But I want to recommend that you find a way to include, especially in the elementary schools, they are still a little bit afraid of their parents. And the parents will tell them in a heartbeat, "I'm going to tell your mama." And the children would get it together. But I would want you to look at how you could train them and maybe put them in a T-shirt or some other kind of shirt so they would feel empowered. Parent power is so awesome. I'd like to see you do that. I don't know what it would cost us. Maybe we could write some grants and, opportunities would come through that kind of funding. It's out there, so I would suggest that you use it. And believe it or not, once they become a part of it, it curtails that behavior, which you and I know that can be curtailed by a good dad or a good mom in the schools. And when the other parents come to the schools and see those parents are out there, they might be inclined to volunteer. And so, we've got to make this work. So, in order to protect them and make it safe for them also, you'll have to figure out a way to do that. But during the time that I was principal, they were ready, set, go. And I believe that they're still there because they want their children to be safe. And wherever you can find the opportunity, those that you can hire part-time based on some truncated